So, welcoming to the podcast, the one, the only, the wonderful founder and creator of the Dream Academy, and also the author of the beautiful upcoming book, Heart Language. I'm sitting down with my friend Jackie. It is such an honor to have her here. And by the way, listeners out there, if you're not watching us on YouTube, please head over to YouTube because it's so weird. Me and Jackie both sitting down with pretty much the same little white dog. This is Buddha my side. What's the name of yours, Jackie?
This is Zoe.
And we've got Zari there. So and we had no idea before our podcast today that we would both and also that we both look after dogs. So that is another part of our lives, like another little synchronistic moment that we didn't know about. So you know, like the magic is in the small, the micro moments, right? Like so often we can think about, and also the name of your company, the Dream Academy, is so beautiful. But we can think of the divine as these massive big things, but actually the teeny tiny micro moment where for some reason I said yes to looking after this beautiful little white Buddha Maltese. And for some reason, Jackie decided that Zoe, yes, she was going to come to your house. Like, that's special. Oh, yum.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yes.
we shall get started. Jackie, say hello to the listeners. It's so good to have
Hello. Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. And I totally agree with you about, the magic of when you really listen to your heart and go for your dreams and tune in to your dreams from what I consider that soul-centered, heart-centered place. Life becomes pretty magical in like all of these seemingly small yet very special and very important synchronistic moments where it's kind of like, oh, this is on path for me. This is on track. So yes, I look forward to diving into that more.
Amazing. Now, we're going to jump right in, but I want to just briefly, again, to listeners out there, just a little background info of how Jackie and I met. So we met not this summer just gone, but the one previous, right? We met over at the Omega Center. We both attended Rebecca Campbell's wonderful retreat together. And Jackie and I actually got paired up. So as one of the exercises, we had to stare deeply into each other's eyes and lovingly declare and ask to one another, what does your soul long for? And we did that for quite a while. So we definitely got to know each other quite well from a really sort of spontaneous, heartfelt space. This was not rational. This was not a big, when is your birthday and, what do you do for a living? This was just beyond all the chatter. What are you really longing for? And little to say, I absolutely loved meeting you there, and it was such a beautiful connection we had. I remember we had something about a birth of something, whether it was an actual child or for both of us, there was a new beginning, there was a birth, there was for me, there was waterfall energy, but I remember there was definitely just like, there's this new creation going on. So anyway, so good to have you here. Jackie, tell us about where in life did you start out? Let's talk about the town. Let's talk about your family setup. Were you one of many where it's just you? What was your background?
Yeah, so I grew up in suburban Atlanta, and my family, my immediate family in particular, was kind of like the American dream story of starting out from not much. And my parents, literally lived in a trailer when they first got married, and they waited to have kids. They waited 11 years, and then, were both very successful in their careers. And so by the time we came along, we had access to a lot of opportunities and education. And it was really my mom in particular who was very close to, and she passed away 4.5 years ago. So I miss her every day. And I know she's still here, but it's different. And she went through her midlife awakening when I was pretty young. So I was 8 and my sister was 6, and she went from a successful, kind of blazing the trail as a woman in banking, which at that time, in the 80s, she was the first female branch manager for a bank. And then she was out in San Francisco working for Wells Fargo. And she decided that even though on paper she had everything you could want, the success, the house, the 2 kids, the husband, all of these things, that if she died that day, she would not die a well-loved woman. And so she completely changed her life. She started her path of, spiritual awakening and um, sort of exploring, went back to school, got a second master's, and became a therapist, working mostly with families and doing a lot of work on mother-daughter relationships. So from a very young age, it was modeled to me that it's never too late to be who you're here to be and do what you're here to do. And that changes, at different stages in our life. And the mom that I had before 8 and the mom after, when she kind of went through her midlife awakening, was literally a completely different person. It wasn't that she loved me any less or anything like that, but it was that when she really connected to that heart place and pursued her own awakening journey, everything changed for her and for our family. And those effects are still felt today. And she was a pioneer in so many ways.
Oh my God, I love that so much. And again, I'm just gonna have to bring up another synchronicity between the two of us because I was also raised by a really very resilient, very strong, very powerful, very spiritual mother myself. So again, it's another interesting fact that that you and I chose to grow up without really knowing each other at that retreat, other than just, and again, it's that thing of like attracts like, right? It's so beyond rationality, other than for me it's not even, I don't even call it spirituality. For me it's science, like it's energy. So it makes sense. But I just wanted to share that because I think that's another thing I didn't know about you, right? Where it's like, wow, we both had these very powerful female mother roles, really paving the way. So how amazing. And
I love it. My dad's great too, but my mom was she was definitely, as far as modeling like your own exploration, what you're here to do, and just watching her completely change into a different person. She definitely modeled that and modeled really pure love. She went from kind of she would call it like I was basically functioning, but I was depressed um and then going through this transformation on the other side, just really being, I would almost describe her, and I think other people would too when they think of her as like almost like a cloud of love. She just was love incarnate. So such a different, well, which was what we all are, but um ultimately it really left a lasting impression from such a young age.
oh my God, amazing. And so did you, in terms of your studies for you, did you study in your hometown? Did you go away? Like what was life like for you, Jackie?
Yeah, so born and raised in Atlanta, suburbs, it's kind of like we were in, I think we had 3 homes total. We had 2 primary homes, like one from 0 to 10, and then we had a rental house, while we were building another house. And so it was very much like born and raised. And so I knew that when I wanted to go to university, that I was ready to explore something different. I originally wanted to go to California, and my parents were like, you need to stay east of the Mississippi. So I went north. I went to Boston. So when you were talking about the sun setting at 3 p.m., I can 100% relate to that, going from the south where it stays, light here, till 5 p.m., 5:30, to go to 3 p.m. Was jarring, to say the least, to go from south to north, from, mild winters to, like, I think the first year I was at school, we had a blizzard that they closed down the school, which they never do that in Boston. It has to be like really, really, 2 feet of snow for them to do that. So yeah, so I did that, and that first move prompted what ended up leading to essentially 19 years of being a global nomad. So literally traveling and living all over the world, working all over the world, living abroad, all of those things. So it really it's been interesting the past 4 years to go back to being in one place. It had been 19 years since all my things had been in one place since I left for school. So it's been an interesting transition these past 4 years to be grounded and rooted after so many years of being on the move and seeing and exploring. And so it feels like it's entering this really powerful time of grounding and mastery in my life. But I'm so grateful for those 19 years of exploring and seeing and basically just getting like essentially 3 or 4 PhDs in life and work and all sorts of stuff.
Wow, 19 years of digital nomading. Oh my God. Okay, this is not me. I didn't know this about you. I've been away from my home country for over 24 years, so I guess that is the
Yes. Yep.
part. When you first decided to leave Boston, where did you go?
I went to China. So that is actually the start of the book that I'm writing, Heart Language, because so I and when I say digital nomad, it was more of like kind of that moving sometimes it was every 6 months, sometimes it was a couple of years, but it was kind of always on the move, always going to what's next, and very much from a heart-led place. So that first choice to move to rural China, the summer before. So I've always been, a high achiever. Like I love achieving. I love, accomplishing a lot of different things. So by the time I graduated university, I had 5 internships. I had studied abroad in Spain. I was an honors student. I had interned at InStyle magazine in New York. I had lived at Columbia University, and it was all like poised for like, okay, you're going to move to VP or to New York. You're going to be a VP by 30. You're going to follow this path. You're going to fulfill all like the family dreams. It's going to be great. And I kept having this feeling leading towards graduation of like, I know what that path is, and I've been groomed for that path. And I wonder if I just feel like there might be more.
Hmm.
Um, Not that there's anything wrong with that path, but it's so important that when we choose the paths that are kind of laid out for us, that it's from us and not necessarily what is societally expected or maybe familially expected. So I kept having this twinge of I'm feeling really well. It was interesting as a UN Fen, a synchronistic moment of I got an email about this program called World Teach. And World Teach at the time is a Harvard affiliated nonprofit that has a year of teaching in a developing part of a country or a developing country. And for whatever reason, I felt really called to it. So I went to the information session and China jumped off the page, which made no sense because I was an English major and a Spanish minor. So I did not speak any Chinese. I had been to China once with my family on a family trip and was kind of like, okay, check that box. That was a great experience and I'm good. And so, but for whatever reason, China really jumped off. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And I did what most of us do. I completely shut it down and ignored it. Because I'm like, that's not practical. That makes no sense. I need to be planning for my future, all those things. But it kept like calling to me. It kept nudging me. It kept prompting me. At the time, I was in a relationship and we had plans to move to New Zealand and do some things. I knew I wanted to be out in the world, but I just didn't know quite where. And when we broke up, I was like, ah, this is my chance. This is my chance to do something different. And everything in me just knew I needed to say yes to that. So I did. I moved to rural China where I was the second tallest woman in the town. I did not speak Mandarin. I was teaching 21 classes of 60 kids each. And I was having just this unbelievable experience that I never in my wildest dreams would have thought I would have ever had. And 2 months into being there, I met a local who I fell in love with, despite him not speaking English and me not speaking Chinese. And he looked at me 2 weeks into us kind of getting to know each other, which our dates essentially consisted of, I like basketball. I like basketball too. And that was pretty much all we could say. But he did say to me, I know your heart. And he tapped on his heart. He said, Xin Li Hua. And when I heard that, I was like, what is Xin Li Hua? And I looked it up. And now that I speak Mandarin, I did learn and all of those things and ended up living in China for 5 years total at different times. It means, honestly speaking, or it's from my heart, but it literally translates as the heart's inner language or the heart's inside language. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's what brought me here. It was not a logical decision, it was a heart decision. And so those 19 years essentially were all about following my heart to all of these different places in the world. Many of them, I felt called or guided to go to those places, and then creating the dreams from that place.
Oh my God, Jackie, I love this so much. It's so beautiful. And this is another synchronicity with you and I is that as a kid, I was obsessed with China, which again
Oh,
makes me
really?
because we weren't studying about China in school. I didn't know any Chinese people apart from like the local people in the one Chinese restaurant we had in Copenhagen. For some reason, I was obsessed with China. I had this painting that my mom had made, and it was right opposite my little bed. So every morning when I would wake up, the first thing I would see was I would see into the painting that she had made with all these beautiful, trees and valleys and mountains that for me, for some reason, evoke something like a deep memory of China, but a memory that I hadn't had in this lifetime, right? And then I started reading about China, and all of a sudden, because I started out in life as a ballerina at the Royal Danish Ballet, so
I don't remember that. That's amazing.
bless you, well done for remembering, and out of nowhere, all of a sudden, I got invited to go on tour to China to dance there. So
Oh, no way. I didn't know that. Wow.
I was 15. I went with the Royal Danish Ballet with the company, and we toured around China, and we were part of the expo there. So expoing was like in the 90s in Kunming, but we were there performing, and
Mhm.
then later on, fast forwarding now, my fiance is Chinese. So, but I kind of I'd never dated another Chinese man. I mean, love Chinese, no problem there. But it hadn't really clicked. So, but now that you're talking about it, I'm like, oh, this is another thing we somehow share. This little Chinese link, which is really beautiful. But back to your story. So, over the course of 19 years, you lived all around the world. So, China was one of them. Tell us a few other places that you decided to go to that you felt inspired, and not only inspired, but you actually acted on moving to, which is so exciting.
Yes, yeah, and some were for, Spain was the studying abroad. China was 5 years at different stages. I crewed for a skipper in Mexico and sailed in Mexico, and we crossed the Sea of Cortez. And then just a lot of travel. So I think it's now at 33 countries or something like that. So, really creating, because that's one of the main reasons why I started my first business was that I wanted to be anywhere I wanted to be in the world, and I wanted to work with who I really wanted to work with. So it didn't really matter the content of the business that I was doing, just as long as it gave me the freedom to do that. So I was doing, virtual meetings and Zoom and all of those things long, long, long before the pandemic. So when the pandemic came, I was like, welcome to my world. This is Zoom. And this is how I run my business, is from all of these different parts of the world. And I lived in San Francisco, I lived in Montana, I lived in New York. And now in Asheville in North Carolina. So
Amazing. And are you still with your partner? Because you were with a wonderful partner when we met that summer, I remember, right?
yes, the yes. So my partner, yes, we're married, and we've been married now. I was like, we just had an anniversary. Three years, and we've known each other 11, and we've been together kind of in this form for 5. Yeah.
And so you've known him for 11 years. So did he travel with you to some of all these amazing places?
No, no, he didn't. Yeah. No, it was kind of like one of those things where he really wanted to be. And we went through so many different stages in our relationship and our coupling. So in the beginning, no, but since we've gotten married, yes. Because I'm like, I love traveling, and so we're gonna bake that in. But now the travel, it's different how it's changed, because I still very much feel called to go to places. So like the retreat that Alden, another person that was at the Omega retreat that we led, in Isle of Skye in Scotland in April, and we're going to be doing that again this April, which is really exciting. I felt called to go back to Switzerland. So I led a dream experience in Switzerland in October. I'm feeling called to go back to China at some point, probably 2027, to lead a trip to Hangzhou and some other areas around there. So it's just really based on where I feel called. And it's interesting because a lot of people will invite me, hey, do you want to go here? Do you want to go there? And it's a very clear yes or no, which before it was kind of like, yeah, I'll go to Thailand. Yeah, I'll go to, wherever it might have been.
No, I totally get that. And I think that's also, I mean, that's also just part of being a human being and having experience, right? Because it becomes that thing where it's a physical knowing. The knowing, it's in the body, like you said, it's a very clear one. It's no longer just like, oh yeah, like cognitively it sounds so exciting, so I'll go. No, it's like, no, actually, how does my body feel, right? And the body will instantly tell you whether it's a yes or a no. Um, Oh my God, I am so happy. Like, the more I hear about you, the more I get to know about you, the more excited I am that I invited you on the podcast. I'm like, yay!
Yeah, it's so interesting when we listen to those nudges and those knowings. A lot of times we'll have that moment where it's like, oh, that's why. Oh, that's why. Oh, that's why. And I've even had moments where it's the opposite, where it was like a no. And I don't really understand why it's a no. I even have a little chart in the book called warning versus resistance. When you're kind of tuning in, is this a warning where this is not really the right door for me? Or is this resistance where I'm kind of standing in my own way and I need to kind of maybe move through that so that I can get to this next level. And it's very subtle, but a lot of times when I have listened to the warnings, there will even be moments where I'm like, oh, that's why. Thank you. Thank you for and there are times I have not listened, which I've broken my foot. I've other things when I'm like, oh man, all the warning signs were there and I did not listen.
Oh my God, this is so juicy. Can you tell us a little bit more how it shows up for you? So, what for you are some of the differences that you're noticing in your body, perhaps, or how the voices when it's a no? Is it fear that pops up, or is it more? Yeah, tell us about your experience. I think this is so juicy. This is wonderful.
Yeah, so I one of the examples I gave to a client actually a couple of days ago, I think is really great, is I got this opportunity to do a very big training for Fortune 100 in the pharmaceutical industry in the UK. And I was kind of back and forth on it because, on the one hand, this is a great opportunity. It's also, a Fortune 100. That's wonderful. It would be a big project. But on the other hand, especially in the States with the way the pharmaceutical industry, it can be kind of murky. And also, one of the things that we have here is that you can directly advertise prescription drugs to people, which I always feel very on the fence and kind of iffy about that. So here I have this option of like, okay, on the one hand, this is a great option. On the other hand, I feel morally conflicted about if this is the right choice for me. So in a situation like that, I really tune in and I really go in and spend a lot of time with it. And I always kind of talk about the balance of like the heart and the head, because the head is great, not telling anyone to abandon the head, but it's when you root in your heart and then bring your head with you, now you have a clear line of sight and vision for where to go and what to do. And when you take aligned action on that path, these magical things happen. So aligned action in this case looked like talking to my uncle who's a doctor and asking his opinion about this company, asking his opinion about like, hey, so I don't really know a ton about the medical industry. I want to hear it from your perspective, and kind of sitting with his answers. And he had really good things to say about this particular company. So I was like, okay, that's a good sign. And just again, continually going in. I do a lot of my human design is a sacral response. So I do a lot of truth questions where I'll ask myself yes or no, and kind of sit with it. And if it's in a maybe, murky. And so at that point, I was kind of like 80% I'm on board. But I know for me, if I'm not 100%, and I would say maybe for all of us, if we're not 100%, there's always going to be that holdback place. So I really worked with it. I kind of sat with it and I'm like, I walk through all the different things because the UK has a lot more rules about what you can and can't do in the pharmaceutical industry. And because they are a blue chip company, I worked through that and I was like, I think that this is the right choice. Really feeling that knowing, because resistance shows up actually because we're doing a Zoom and people they can come and see. I feel like it's good to see the chart because it shows you kind of how this shows up. Okay, so here I'm going to share the chart with you. Oh.
Hello. Okay, let's see the chart.
All right, let's see the chart.
I've done this. Oh, there we go. Okay, very cool. Oh, I love this. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Jackie. You multi.
I always have visuals. I'm a visual person, and I think that sometimes when you get
This little thing.
when you get into conversations about this, you can hear it, but I think it also happens to kind of see it. So for me, a warning is like that gut feeling, a sinking in the stomach, an unease, something doesn't feel right, or if it feels kind of heavy, or it feels funky, or it's this intuitive sense of a clear no or a not now, because sometimes it's not a no, it's just the timing is not quite there yet. And so it's really tuning into that versus resistance. For me, it shows up as procrastination, shows up as cleaning. I'm not a cleaner. So if you see me cleaning, it means I'm definitely in resistance. Distraction, fear, panic, restlessness, anger, sadness, flippancy, some tantrums. If I start feeling like I can also feel it when I'm in my chest and that kind of nervous, anxious, high breathing instead of the deeper breathing, I can tell I'm probably in resistance. So it's really tuning into your heart and going through that process. And through that process, I would say it took about a week. I got really clear that yes, this was a go for me. Yes, this is an alignment. Yes, I'm 100% in it. And it ended up turning out even better than I could have ever imagined. Like it was a wonderful project. It went so well that they renewed. So then it grew even more. And it was so much fun. It was great working with them. And so that was just but I know that if I had just said yes, and without working through it, that it probably wouldn't have turned out maybe the same way because my energy would have been a little conflicted. And I know that if I had just said no because of feeling like, oh, I don't know if it's 100%, then I would have kind of never had the chance to actually be like, what could that have been like?
Oh my God, I really love that. Thank you so much for sharing this with us, Han. This is amazing. And again, for listeners out there, just to make it just really relatable, we all have different signs, right? We all have different things. So for me, it's always a voice. It's a physical sensation as well, but it's always a voice. And if it's to do with fear, for me, fear is normally resistance. It's never, for me, fear is not intuition. It's not like, if it's intuition, it's normally actually quite a calm voice, kind of like, go over there instead. It's always kind of like this, and for some reason, it's quite a deep voice. It's like, Josie.
Josie, we got your back.
You know what I mean?
Keep
Like,
going.
do this thing, and also quite often, again, when it's resistance, what comes up for me is usually the deeper I dig, quite often there's a little voice that's like, it's always this kind of like, oh, but I may get found out. What if, and whenever I notice that voice, I'm like, oh my God, hell yeah, I'm doing this. there's a part of my ego that's like, Josie, no, 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 out of the sandbox here. And then my soul is like, yes, we're doing it. So anyway, it shows up differently for maybe it's a voice, maybe it's a physical sensation. For all of us, I'm sure it's a bit of both, but I loved how you put it up in your amazing chart. It was so good, Jackie. I loved it. And actually what I wanted to share is that although I haven't lived all around the world, I used to travel around 4 times a month for like 20 years. So kind of a similar timeline to you.
Very similar.
But this was pretty much just like all the way up until COVID happened. I was never in one place. Like I had a base in London, but I pretty much like I had a suitcase I never used to unpack because I was always using it
Yes.
for the next spot. And the same as you. So as in terms of work. So for me, again, it wasn't so much. I mean, yes, I enjoyed what I did, but the main thing was actually that I got to go to places all around the world. And for me, again, it was this very deep knowing that I had to go there. And even there would be times where I would be like, I would get a job. So, I don't know if you noticed, I used to model, I used to dance,
Yes.
used to act. And so with all of these things, I would go to these castings. And for me, it was never like, oh, the job is so exciting. It was never that. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to Cape Town. Or like, oh my God, I'm going to Tokyo. And so it's exactly the same thing. It was the invitation, the fact that I could make a living from going to places that my soul knew I had to go to. Even if my head was like, why am I now in Iceland? Like I was like, I'm a cold person already. Like, why? But then my soul was like, because this is where you're supposed to be. You're picking up something, you're learning something literally just by being here. Even if rationally, not all of it is connecting just yet, and it's fine. Just go there, let it settle into your system. So I love that this is another, synchronistic moment that we didn't know about each other. I have to quickly ask, because now I'm getting too curious. Jackie, can I ask you, when is your date of birth?
July 18th. Yes.
Amazing. And are you, and of course, you don't have to share your age if you don't want to. It must be a similar age because this
We
is,
probably are.
we have so many. I'm turning 40 on Friday, so I'm in that group. So I don't know if that's for you or whatever, but like,
Well, I'm 42, so
oh, there we go. Really similar, right? Similar age gap. Oh my God, I love this. Jackie, my love, take us to now, please. When did the Dream Academy, because you said I mean, obviously, you're highly educated, you're ridiculously good at what you do, and seeing opportunities when they arrive in your path. But when did the Dream Academy come about?
yeah, so the Dream Academy was so here's I want to like go back to the heart piece because there are these guide points and roadmaps sort of for us if we listen to them. And they usually start as like gentle taps on the shoulder. And then if you don't listen, it's kind of like a firmer tap, and then it's like a shake your shoulders, and then sometimes you break your foot. That was not the start of the Dream Academy. But when we are connected and we're listening to those subtle things, we start feeling, for me, it shows up as restlessness. Like that something is just not feeling right anymore. Something feels off. And so in those moments of restlessness, a practice that I do that's in the book, it's actually the first heart habit in the book. All the chapters have an exercise at the end for people to go through. And it's really about what I call a dream session. It's essentially going and they're creating space, physical, emotional, and mental space to really listen, to really tune in and hear what your heart, what your guidance, what your soul is telling you. So the Dream Academy started because I went to one of my favorite trees. It's a tree in Freedom Park in Atlanta. And at that time, I was feeling really restless. There was a lot of things going on. My mom got dementia. And so my sister and I were her caregivers and taking care of her and doing our best to do that, even though, we were really young and both had made the choice at that time not to have kids. So it was kind of becoming a parent to your parent and pretty young and dementia. And I think even there's more information about dementia and primary and progressive aphasia, which is what Bruce Willis has now than there even was when she was diagnosed in 2014. So there was a lot going on. There was a lot of movement. And my first business was a purely digital marketing consulting company. So I would go in and work with everyone from solopreneurs and small businesses to Fortune 100, 500 companies, and I would train them on digital marketing. And I would also do consulting around that. And I was starting to feel like, okay, I I'm loving the being in front of the people. I'm loving the travel. So it sounds like we're very similar in having, and in these digital nomad times, I was lucky that my home base always was at my mom's house. So like my permanent address kind of lived there, and then I would go off and do my thing. And if I needed 2 weeks, I always had like a place to land when I didn't have like a stable apartment. Um, and so anyway, I'm sitting at this tree and I'm like, you know what? I'm seeing this issue because I have, we met at Omega, had been in kind of the spiritual and the self-development circles. And what I love about those places is that you have those really deep, intimate, vulnerable conversations immediately. And you're like, oh my gosh, I knew that you had done ballet and modeling and that you lead beautiful retreats and you do all these wonderful things. And I remember that your partner is Chinese, but I really knew the truth of who you were, not just kind of the details in like the first, 30 minutes of us ever meeting. So which is not typical, which is amazing. And what I have seen about a lot of these experiences is that you have these deep, profound, earth-shattering, shaking experiences, and then you go back into your life and you have no idea what to do with it. You have no idea, like, how do I integrate that into my business? Or how do I integrate that in talking to my manager? Or how do I be a better leader? Or how do I do even my SEO on my website? Like, there was no how. And then I would be in these, boardrooms and with people and it was all about the how and
Mhm.
there was no of like, well, okay, well, we're focusing on SEO. Well, we're doing that because everyone's doing it. And we're doing this kind of campaign because this is where we need to be on social media. And I'm like, well, that's directionless. You don't have the dream, you don't have the vision. So as I'm sitting at this tree, I'm like, I want to create a place where people can learn, where they can take courses, where they can do consulting, where they can have coaching about bringing their dreams to life in their work because heart language is kind of that first key. I wrote a blog called 6 Months to Live for a long time, which is all about what could you do in 6 months? And like if you had 6 months to live, how would you change? What would you change? And then taking that idea and then taking 6 months to truly live. So the Dream Academy is really, and how do you do that at work? How do you align with your heart? Now you've done that in your life. Now how do you come to life at work, which we usually relegate the heart for these for our personal life, but we don't necessarily bring it into the boardroom. So I kept imagining, and I was like, Imagination Academy. And I was like, no, no. I was like, dreams, it's Dream Academy. And everything, if you notice on the website or even with heart language, everything kind of has a heart piece and a head piece. So I'm like, dream is the heart piece, and academy is like, let's put it together.
Yeah.
Yes. So the Dream Academy is all about helping mostly founders and business owners really connect with that heart-centered dream of what's next, and then really bringing them through what I have found to be a 6-step process of helping them get really clear on the dream, the vision from that heart-centered place. And then we go into the who is your dream client? What are you offering? And then the tactics for that of like, okay, now how are we going to buff up your LinkedIn or what is going to be our sales strategy? But it's from that aligned place.
God, I love that. And when, like, what year was this that you launched that?
So I got the idea in 2017
Mhm.
and I didn't launch it until 2020 when I
Maybe.
moved back from China. Yeah. Mhm.
Oh my God, I love it. So beautiful. Yay, Jackie, I love it. So good. So
Well, if it's a great time to launch a business. I don't know about that, but
it's wild, right? But you know, and I think it's because in the end of the day, like if you are someone that is always just working with whatever is going on, using everything as fuel, then you know anything can be a springboard. So I wrote my first book in 2020.
oh
I
wow.
I took all my clients on Zoom, even when everyone, the studios, all of my agents were like, because I do a lot of wellness talks, and I called up my agents. I was like, I will no longer go into. I do mainly the financial district in London, and I was like, I'm no longer available for in-person talks. And my agents were like, that's not going to work, Josie. And I was like, I don't care. Like something is going on in the world, and I don't want to be the one that's potentially passing on illness to other people. So like, I'm out. And you know, 2 weeks later, they called me up and they're like, actually, they would quite like you on Zoom, and the rest is history. And the same thing. So during that 2020, I ended up doing 200 talks online that year.
Oh my
Plus,
gosh.
plus I took all my private clients online, and these are like yoga sessions, Pilates sessions, energy healing, like the same thing, energy healing. So people that used to be like, no, this can only be done in person. I'm like, of course it can't. Like this is energy. It's actually the one thing that is not bound by time or space. But so just like that same thing of makes so much sense that, that was the year for you, makes complete sense. And oh my God, like, was there ever a time where the world needed you and needed the Dream Academy to come into being? So well done you for that. Tell us about heart language. So when did the book? Because I always feel like most people that write, the book has always been in the making way before. So I'm just going to step up way before it actually ends up on paper. How was it for you?
So it's been 18 years in the making.
Oh, there we go.
That first moment of when my boyfriend said to me, and he wasn't my boyfriend at the time when he said that to me, but he ended up becoming my boyfriend. And when he said that to me, I was like, oh my God, that's what brought me here. And then the first iteration of the book was actually going to be about how I discovered this language, told through the first year of my time in Ningyuan. And more than even that relationship, he was the one, he's a wonderful person, and he gave me a language or the wording that prompted me to be like, oh, that's this universal language, and that's what this is. But it was really the kids, to be around 21 class of kids and to see their exuberance. And I love China. It's like a second home to me. And I think one of the reasons for that is because I experienced it from children's hearts. And in China, because they don't have the kids, they stay kids longer, I guess is the best way to put it. So there is a innocence to them because they're not exposed to the same things that a lot of Western kids are exposed to from a really young age. So they have that purity of heart a little bit longer than I have seen traditionally in Western countries and societies. So they were just so like, I mean, I could show you some pictures, and actually I can show you a couple pictures.
Why not?
It'll be a little bit like
I honestly, like, I am just so delighted that you're like taking us around in your universe with photos and charts, and it's all happening. Photos, charts, dog. This is such a delight, Jackie. Love having you here. Yeah,
oh,
show us.
I'm so glad to be here. Yes, so and you'll see in their energy, very, very sweet. Hold on, let me share this.
Yes. But I also think, can I just ask, because you said in the beginning of our podcast, you were like, I've always been a high achiever, right? And so have I. And I'm sure that also has some of that thing, like you said, they stay children for longer, right? And I don't know if this resonates with you, but I'm assuming it does. There's this feeling of like, as much as I've always loved having lots of goals and going after them, but there's also like for instance, my partner now, in many ways, I feel like he's so innocent. Like he's got this real sort of purity of just, where I'm very much like, we need to get this done and this done. And Carl is just like, oh, let's have a tea. Let's enjoy the sunshine. But this innocence to him, that really helps me to remember to be like, oh my God, yeah, like all of that, actually, none of that really matters. Like, let's just enjoy it. Like, this is a really good moment. So I could imagine that there's that innocence. Oh my God, for you listeners out there, you need to head over to YouTube. I love this photo. How beautiful is that? Oh my God.
Yes.
But isn't it funny? So you have, I mean, I don't have my China photos on my laptop. Otherwise, I would share because it's exactly the same. We went out to all the dance schools. So I have lots of photos of me and then all the ballet kids around me. Oh, I love this. Oh, this is the best. I love it.
Yes. I have a bunch of other ones. But yeah, it like to your point, that purity of heart, we're all born with it. And we get schooled out of it usually. And I'm very fortunate that my mom always encouraged my sister and I to listen to our intuition and to stay connected. And because she went through her midlife awakening at a time when I was still, 8 and kind of growing up through that, we had access to a lot of things that you don't usually have access to ahead of its time, really. Like she was talking about human design 20 years ago. She was talking about, alternative health practices and supplements and all those things at a time when no one was really doing that. I was reading Gary Zukav in college and, Conversations with God and Esther Hicks. And I was reading all of that very, very young. And then also going to these international trainings around belief systems and creating and discreating beliefs. So I'm so fortunate that because of both of my parents, they and all the things that they were able to do and how far they came, I had access to those different learnings and lessons. And so it gave me the confidence, even though it was really difficult. And I don't want to downplay the difficulty of me choosing that because there was a lot of pressure and there was a lot of backlash and not understanding. Why would you give up an opportunity to go to New York and work up the corporate ladder to volunteer, teach in rural China and get the equivalent of $250 a month? Like, why would you ever do that? Your education was a waste. And so um, it's because I think that I had always kind of up to that point, I had always lived a life true to me and gone for my dreams, but they were still within what was expected. So this was the first time I really departed from that. And it totally changed everything. That first year, just my heart opened and from that, or more of it expanded is a better way to put it. And so from that moment on, I was like, okay, I want to write a book about this, about how much this first year has totally changed my life. And it was going to be a memoir. And then over the years, as time went on, it became very clear that this is more like, yes, there's a memoir piece to it and a kind of exploring how I came to this, but then working in it with clients and then working and seeing it in friends' lives. And now I'm like, okay, now it's more of a guide. So it has been this iteration. There have been no fewer than I think 1,000 pages at this point, and diligently working in the past 3 to really, finish it. It's in its final editing stage. It's getting ready to be published. So there's a Kickstarter project right now to publish the book. So get your pre-order, everybody. And it's exciting. It's a very exciting time that this baby, I feel like the world really needs our hearts open, especially now with everything going on. And it feels like the world is more receptive to this message, and now's the time. And I've done a lot of self-work to even be ready to share it. So,
Oh, of course, Jackie. And there's also, I think, there's so much in here because it was also on your chart list, that thing of just because it's not happening right now doesn't mean it won't happen at all. Like the timing is everything, right? You're so highly intelligent. You could have sat down pushed yourself through writing it like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but it didn't feel right. So, like it's like an avocado matures when it matures, like, and I think this is something that, again, this is just, a reflection of our society that we live in. We live in a society where we're constantly taught, not taught, but we are shown, demonstrated the pushing up the desire to want it and to have it now, right? Everything must be instant and now. And actually, there is so much beauty in going through the seasons of life. There is so much beauty in letting things marinate. And I think, again, that's just such a good moment for listeners out there, because, we are so fortunate, so many of us, like you and I, even being in a position where we can sit and do a podcast on a Sunday afternoon, right? We have so much choice in our life, endless choices. And yet there are just those choices that feel right to you, to me, at a specific moment in time. And the beauty of letting that be is and when it will be. Instead of trying to power through something, instead of trying to force something, right? So I love this thing that you said, it's been in the making for 18 years or 19 years. I think that is absolutely delicious, so beautiful. And it's actually something that I tell myself as well, and share with clients as well, this thing of, sometimes people come and they're like, oh, but Josie, nervous about something, excited about something. And I always go, you've been preparing your entire life for this thing. And that's the truth, right? Of course we have, because every single day of our life, we've had to, through experience, when life goes, hey, do you want this thing? We've said yes, we've said no. And through all of those contrasting experiences, we've been learning a little more, we've been refining a little more. And then the person that sits in this wisdom now, which takes me to the point of what I'm about to ask you, we are literally the culmination of all that learning. So, best version of you is the one right now. But my love, because I could talk to you all day long and I'm just noticing time is going on. If you had just one or two soul messages for humanity, what would they be, Jackie?
Yeah, I feel, I'm getting a little misty even thinking about that. So as I've been, sitting with everything going on in the world, and it's so hard when you're an empathic person, a sensitive person, or just a human going about your life on a day-to-day basis, navigating so many of the things in the world right now. And it's not that things have always been rosy and cheery, medieval times. Like, I prefer indoor plumbing, so but it's a lot, and it's really overwhelming. So I keep going back to, what is my role to play? What is my role to play? How can I support? What can I do? And it keeps going back to open hearts, open hearts, open hearts, open hearts. Because if our hearts are open, if we are connected to that soul-centered place, if we are connected to ourselves, to our families, to our community, to our partners, to our friends, to our society, those have ripple effects. And when you have your heart open, you're more open to connection. So it's a lot harder to build walls, internally and externally. And it's a lot harder to other people, because you realize that we're all connected. And by all, I mean everything. I mean plants, animals, trees, which is why we're both, you're like, of course I'll have an animal, and it's always interesting to me. One of the fastest paths for me to get into my heart, and there's an exercise in the book to help people kind of see the difference between their heart and their head, is to think about my doggy friends, because I really love my doggy friends. And that immediately gets me into that unconditional love space. And then ultimately, like, what the Dream Academy is about, what Heart Language is about, is co-creating heaven on earth. Because I honestly believe that, and heaven is, a loaded term, so you can substitute whatever that means for you. For me, that means everyone thrives. Everyone is showing up as who they are, doing the work they're here to do, and we are all co-creating and coexisting in harmony with each other and the planet. And so I 100% believe that's possible. It's just a matter of alignment. Because if you think about it, we already live in an Eden. Like all you have to do is go out in nature and you're like, this is an Eden. This is literally paradise. So the only thing that is keeping us from really experiencing that on the planet or with each other is us closing ourselves off to that and not being in alignment and being too in our egos and too in our heads and looking for that more. When you come from your heart, the more is like, what if there's more? What if there's more possibility? What if there's more this? Or what if there's more connection? It's a very different more. And so that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm so passionate about it. That's why I care so much, because I honestly believe it's possible, and I want to do everything that I can in my work, in my life, in my community to help build that. And I know you're building that too.
Oh my God, Jackie, I love this so much. I love you so much. I actually felt really inspired to ask you to do this. Um, would you be happy to just right now, right here, lead us and the listeners through a little heart opening prayer, heart
I
opening?
would love that.
Let's do it.
Thank you for asking. So the one of the fastest ways, there's so many ways to connect to your heart, but I just like to sit in a chair, sit in a space, close your eyes if that feels comfortable. I kind of like to like rub my hands and just kind of put them palms up on my lap, but you can do whatever feels comfortable. And just start breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth. Those deep belly breaths. And when you're ready, I just want you to calmly, just start putting your attention towards your heart space. You can put your hand on your heart if that feels good. And keep breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth. And when you're ready, I just want you to think of someone. It could be an animal, it could be a person, it could be living, it could be passed away person or an animal, or even a tree. It could be a tree. Someone that you unconditionally love. And just bring that person or that animal or that tree or that flower, whatever it is for you, into your heart. And keep breathing. And as you're here, I just want you to notice the sensations that kind of pop up and how that feels. And when you're ready, just want you to gently come back to the present moment, to this time, and you can gently open your eyes and be back in this space. Mhm.
Thank you so much, Jackie. I felt that so much, and I'm sure listeners out there did as well. And I think it's just, this very gentle, actually super easy technique, right? Just dropping into the heart, maybe placing that hand on the heart, some nice breaths, allowing the breath to take us back into the body, and then just in that heart, just planting an image of whoever it is, whatever it is you love, and just juicing that out, just spending a little bit of time in that space and noticing how quickly the effects you receive, right? How quickly your heart opens, how quickly, like you said, those shoulders drop. I mean, yeah, I just loved it so much, and I cannot wait to read your book, Jackie. And I really love your message. This is so true. I always I can't remember exactly what I wrote, but in my latest book, Fall in Love with You, it's exactly the same thing. I always write, this thing of when we are hurting, the tendency is always to try and contract the heart, because we think that in our efforts to push fear, to push pain away, we think that we can protect ourselves, but we're pushing everything away, right? Like what we're actually needing to do when we are grieving, when we are worried, when we are losing, whatever it is, we need to expand the heart. We need to actually open more. We need to love
Yes.
more, not less. And because it goes back to the other story about ourselves, right? When we're noticing, when I'm noticing that I have this voice that goes, Josie, maybe this won't be good. Like Josie, maybe you'll get found out, the imposter syndrome, whatever it is, right? When I hear that voice, I'm not going to try and push that voice away. I'm going to go, oh wow, there's an aspect of me that's really scared. Oh my God, like poor little Josie, you know what? Get in here. I'm going to love you even more.
Mm,
That thing of,
yes.
right. And when we're noticing as well in towards other people, like people that we love, because as we all know, human being complex experience at times, right? It's not about loving that other person less. Let's love them even more. We need even more heart opening. We need more heart receptivity. I loved it so much because, like you said, when we're in the heart space, we're all one, we're all connected. And,
Yes.
and when we feel that, like you said, we don't want to separate. And on our deepest level, we all long to belong. We all long to feel part of the something bigger, something where we're all in this together. Um, oh, Jackie, I'm getting goosebumps. I could sit here all day. This has been such a joy. Oh, is there another
I
link?
know. I just have one final little chart.
I love this. Tell
So
us.
it's a very simple exercise of exactly what you're talking about. So when you feel, I have another chart that is the heart versus the head. And one of the simplest ways to tell if you're in your heart versus your head is the heart speaks in short sentences, the head speaks in paragraphs. So if you find yourself spiraling out, so one of the things that is the easiest way if you're like spiraling out at work or, in your business or just at home or, a relationship situation, take a piece of paper, put a line down the center on the right head on the left heart. And first you're going to address the head and you're going to do what I call a head dump or a fear dump. And it's all the things the head says, which is a lot of ego things. And I love your voice and intonations of like, well, what if it's not good enough? And like, who are you? Like all that stuff that comes up. And there's some, at least for me, when I do this, I'm like, wow, there's some dark stuff in there. There's some resources.
Yeah.
Yes. And very harsh sometimes,
Oh,
and very, very critical it can be. So you do that fear dump and you do it until it kind of exhausts itself because the head usually has a lot to say, but it'll quickly tire itself out if you give it an opportunity to just spin for even a minute. So you write that all down. You do the exercise we just did. You center in your heart or whatever way that you do that. And then you do the heart part. So you go to the heart and you ask about, it works best if it's a particular topic. So if it's like, oh, well, I remember I've done this many times as I've been writing the book. And one of the times and how I came up with this exercise was I was very in my head, which I'm like, can't be in, well, you don't want to be in your head too often when you're writing a book about heart language. And so my head kept saying, write 20 chapters. They need to know everything. You need to prove your worth, all the stuff. Yeah. And then the heart was very succinct. Less is more. Speak from your heart. Give them heartbeats. Guide them back. And it was very clear and succinct. So that's how you can kind of start to see this because to your point, when we have that open-hearted coherence, we're connected to each other. We all want to belong. And I think the key, and I've been working on this a lot in my own self-healing work, is clearing up those last vestiges of people pleasing and thinking I need to show up as whatever version someone wants me to show up as versus just, I think we want to belong, but I think what we want even more than belonging is to belong as our true selves.
100%. We want to belong to us. And it's this thing of, again, so my book, the third one, it wasn't going to be called Fall in Love with You, but as the time went by, after 18 months, one day I was like, okay, Josie, it's time. And I realized because I had changed and the
Beautiful.
had changed, the title had to change because the book was actually, it was supposed to be, well, in the beginning it was called What Happens Next. But then because it changed so much and I realized everything that had been coming down, it's all these sort of like positive, uplifting, channeled messages. So, each page has one little message, but all of them was about meeting yourself, coming home. It was this thing about, the love that we long for, it's not out there. The intimacy that I long for, it's not out there. I long for this deep acceptance of me, from me, exactly like you said, 100%. And exactly that same thing of, it's so easy to have all these illusions of versions of self that we think we have to be, the different roles. Like you said, listen, my parents, and they worked so hard so that I could have a chance to have a choice, and now I'm choosing to go to China, right? And of course, but deeply this is what your heart wanted, and we keep going through those processes in life, right, if we choose to. For me, so similar, like my path has always been like, even when my head is like, hey, again, hey Josie, hey Josie, this is it's such an interesting one because, and I'm sure you have the same thing. The longer you start to listen to your heart, the more you can't go against it. And of course, life is sneaky. There are moments where you're like, oh, I'll still have a little sneaky moment over here. But in general, the body won't allow it because the body will literally be like, oh no, you know what? You're going to get like a stomach cramp now, just so I can really make sure that I'm here talking.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yes.
anyway, my lovely Jackie, it's been such a joy, such an honor. Please send all of your links, but even now, just tell listeners, where can we find you?
Yes, the best place to find me is thedream.academy. And if you would like to back the Kickstarter project, there's pre-ordered copies, there's all sorts of cool rewards in there. It's kickstarter.com/projects/Jacqueline/heart language. But I'm sure if you just Google Kickstarter Jacqueline heart language, it'll show up.
Oh my God, this has you've so lit up my spirit this afternoon. It's been an absolute joy having you here. Please stay on the line, but for now, thank you so much, listeners. Can't wait to
Thank
be.
you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, gorgeous.